Hello everyone. It is still Black Friday weekend, and so the sales are still continuing, and I did just receive a couple of makeup products through delivery, and these are some of the hotter products that people seem to be especially interested in. And so I thought that what I would do is show you what those look like on my face and also swatched before the sales are over. First of all, I did end up picking up this particular Chantecaille product that is called Cheek Light, and it is in the Chantecaille Holiday Collection. And I was a bit skeptical about this product because it was $105, and so I have this in the shade that is kind of champagne colored. And then I also like the Chantecaille Lip Creme so much that I picked up two more shades of these. And so one of them is a very bright shade, which is called Cherry Blossom, and so I thought I would take a little bit of a chance with this one. And then I also have one that I am also attracted to, but which is also a little bit on the dramatic side, and this is called Banyan Tree. And so I have swatched these two next to all of the other Chantecaille lipsticks that I have. And so the other shades that I have are Bamboo and Barberry, Rose Myrtle, and Dragon Fruit, and Pink Lotus. And so you can see what all those look like next to one another. And then I also have two new products from Ta. And so one is a matte eyeshadow palette that is called the Essential Artistry Edit, I think. And so this has 6 different shades of matte eyeshadow, and these are the light version of this. And so this is supposed to be a useful palette for sculpting the eyes, and that can serve as a base for any other kind of eyeshadow that you might put on top of it, such as eyeshadows that have a little bit more shimmer to them, or eyeshadows that have a little bit more color. And then I also have one of his new versions of his duos. And so these are the opposite of being matte. They are very, very shimmery, and they're kind of like eyeshadow toppers. And so the version that I picked up is the one that is called In Your Dreams, and this is just described as having diamond sparkles. So the shades are 2 different shades of a kind of an ivory color. And so I thought that this could be kind of versatile and pretty to put over any other kind of eye look I might have. And so I thought that I would try this in combination with this matte palette to see how it looks. And so everything on the Chantecaille site is 30% off, and so I do think that that is a pretty good deal. And then also everything on the Patrick Ta website is 20% off. And the Westman Atelier website also is 20% off, but there are a few things on the Westman Atelier website that are bigger discounts and that I think are particularly good deals. And so one of these is a set of 2 of their lip glosses, which are called the Squeaky Clean lip glosses. And so this is a set that came out, I think, earlier this year or last year. And so there are 2 different shades that were special edition shades, and one of these is called Rudy Nudie, and the other one is called Lulu. And so I did go ahead and pick this one up because the total cost is $36 for these 2, and usually these do cost $38 each. And so I feel like this is a pretty good deal of $18 for each of these for me to be able to use them fairly more regularly, because I do really, really like this formula, and I do think it is very good for my lips. And then the other high-end website that I think is having some particularly good deals right now is Sarah Creal. And so they have 20% off on everything on their website, but they also are having daily deals. And so, for instance, right now they have a deal where if you buy anything on the website, you can get one of their mascaras in full size. And so I did buy this one myself a while back, and I actually did really like it. And so I am happy to be getting another free one of these. And the products on the website that I think are really, really popular at the moment are these new eyeliners. And so they are selling out really fast from both Sephora and the Sarah Creal website. And so So far I picked up 2 of them. One is Taupe and the other one is Twilight Smoke. But I am really interested in buying some more, and I actually have already ordered one in Cocoa and one in Bronzy, and I wouldn't mind having even one more of them. So I am very enthusiastic about how the eyeliner performed, and I also like this little brush that is on the end of this, which is a very high quality brush even compared to a brush that you might buy from BK Beauty or Jones Road. And so this is a particularly good sale too. And so let's just dive right into this. I put on a few basic products, and so the first one I put on is the Jones Road Tinted Moisturizer because I felt like my face was looking a little bit red today. And this is a really wonderful tinted moisturizer that was released this year, and I have heard nothing but good things about it from everyone that I have heard that has tried it. And Jones Road has discounts between 10 or 20% this weekend. And then I put on some face pencils over the top of that just to neutralize the redness and the dark circles under my eyes a bit more. And I use these pencils all the time, of course. And then a product that I use even more frequently is this Jones Road eyebrow pencil in the shade Ash, which tends to look much more realistic than most eyebrow pencils because it has little fibers in it. And then on my eyelids, I put just a little bit of concealer so that I could put on a little bit of eyeshadow a little bit more easily. And so for that, I used this really great concealer from Creal. And then another go-to product for me recently has been this Hourglass palette in the shade Deer. And so this is now available for 20% off on the Hourglass website when I looked at it earlier today. And so I am happy to see that. And I don't feel like I've ever had an Hourglass palette in the past that I've really liked that much. But this one I have been really liking because I think that the colors are more natural for me. And in particular, I think that this bronzer is a good shade for me. It is not too orange or yellow. And so I think it just kind of disappears into my skin and makes me just look a little bit more healthy. And I also really like the powders in here. These are just finishing powders. And so I just put a little bit of this on. And so let's give this eyeshadow palette a try, and this is one of the first times that I've actually been using this, and so I am still kind of at the point where I'm just kind of throwing things on, and I won't even try to create the same eye look on both eyes. I'll just use some of these different colors randomly, and we can see how it looks, because honestly I think that once we put that shimmery stuff down on top of it, that it's not going to make that much difference anyway. So this is what the colors are, so let's start with the color that is like this, and we'll just put it down like this. And again, I am not usually all that careful when I put eyeshadow down, and so if it's a palette that I feel like I have the potential of making a big mess with, then that is not a palette that I enjoy using. But in this case, I think that it's been working out okay. And I think that the quality of these shadows has been fairly good and adequate for me to be using and blending in really easily. And so my hope is that over time they won't get too dry and hard to blend, but so far they seem fine. And so I'll just put a little bit on sort of over my whole eye area, and then I'll put on a little bit darker shade on the outer corners, which is what people tend to suggest doing if you have eyes that are like mine that are quite hooded. And we'll use this one on this eye. So my feeling is, with regard to this palette, the reason that I was attracted to it is because I feel like there certainly are lots of other palettes on the marketplace that do have a lot of shades and that might have these shades, but they tend to also have a lot of other shades that are much darker that I would not use. And so spending a lot of money for a palette, and particularly having a really large palette around that is taking up a lot of space, is just kind of annoying to me. And so when I saw so this particular palette, I was kind of excited about it because I feel like these are all colors that I can use to shade my eyes and to sculpt them a little bit and to prepare them for small amounts of colored eyeshadow or shimmery eyeshadow, and that this is something I can also wear on my own, and it is not something that's likely to look too heavy and overdone or smoky on me. And so the eyeshadow brush that I used just to put on the eyeshadow was the 207 by BK Beauty, and I like that one because it is very small, and my eyes are hooded and they are very small, and so I think that that means that a small brush works a lot better for me. And then I am using the Angie Hot and Flashy brush, which is the A502, which is a fairly small blending brush too, just to kind of blend these together. And if I look at this palette, I think that the shades that are in here, that they may not be necessarily dark enough to serve as a good eyeliner for me. I think that if I used like this shade, that I could probably get somewhat of a semblance of there being a little bit of darkness around my eyes. We can give that a try, even though we're going to use the Sarah Creal eyeliner as the main eyeliner in this look. But I'll put a little bit of that darker shade on there just to see what it looks like. And so this is the regular Jones Road eyeliner brush, and I do like this one a lot, and this is the one that I use almost every day. But I think that the Sarah Creal brush that is on the end of those pencils is just about as good as this one, so that's kind of astounding. And maybe it won't hold up as long, but I think that it's probably a mistake to throw away those pencils even if I use up all of the eyeliner in it, because it is such a nice brush. I would say this color is a little bit on the reddish side for me to feel entirely comfortable using it as an eyeliner. So I think that maybe if this palette had a brown in it that was more neutral, that might allow me to use it as an eyeliner. But I don't think it looks bad. It's just a little more reddish than I would prefer. So I don't think that everyone needs this palette, and I'm not sure if the medium and the dark shades are really that much different than many of the other small sculpting palettes that are on the market. But I think that for me, I really have been looking for a palette like this for a very long period of time. And the only thing that I found that was anything like it at all are these ones that were on the Korean websites like Yes Style or whatever, but I didn't know anything about those brands, and I couldn't find the ingredient lists. And so I never really sprung for those, but this one seems to be fine for me, and it seems to be a good formula, and it's not being irritating for me. And so far, as long as Patrick Ta products do not have fragrance in them, which most of them do, I feel like his products have been very, very good for me. And then I will just put on a little bit of this shadow, and I think that probably it will be most successful if I put it on with my finger. So I will give that a try, and we will just put one on each eye just to see if there's any difference. So we'll start with the top one, and just put a little bit on to begin with, and then see if we want to put on any more. And, you know, tomorrow it's going to snow 7 inches here, starting tonight, and it's not going to go away for weeks apparently, and so therefore I feel like this is the ideal time to be using these sparkly eyeshadows, because if I wear a sparkly eyeshadow like during the summer, then I feel like that is a little bit much, and it's a little bit too evening or just dressy or pretentious. But I do feel like if there's a lot of snow and ice outside, and then I match it with a little bit of highlighter and a little bit of sparkle on my eyes, that can seem like it goes together, and it makes it a lot easier for me to wear those kinds of things if I feel like I'm actually reflecting nature, just as I feel like it's a little bit easier for me to wear orange makeup or brighter colors of makeup when it's fall and the trees are those colors. And what I feel like is when I have seen other people put this eyeshadow on before, that in a lot of cases they seem to be putting on a lot of it. And so therefore it looks really aggressively shimmery. And when I am just putting it on now, I just put on a very small amount of it on top of this. And I think that it looks really mellow and really quite pretty. And I kind of couldn't be happier with it. And I will put on a little bit more of it later on, but so far I think this has been great. Now, in terms of this Chantecaille highlighter, this is a product that is in packaging that actually has some crystals on it, and the crystals actually do turn out to be very sparkly, so they are definitely reminiscent of diamonds, and so I think that is kind of attractive. I didn't realize they were quite so sparkly. I had looked at this in the Blue Mercury store, but it was very dark when I was there, and so I don't think that I appreciated this very much, either in terms of the packaging or in terms of how it looked on my skin. And this is plastic, and so I would be a little bit more impressed with it if it were metal rather than plastic, but it's actually fairly pretty plastic, and I do think that these sparkly things on the top are somewhat unusual for makeup products, and I am kind of enjoying it now that I actually have it. Now, I did say in the Chantecaille video that I thought that it looked actually very similar to the RMS highlighter, which is called the Prosecco Fizz Redimension Hydra Dew Luminizer. And so I did do a side-by-side swatch on my arm, and I do think that I was right about that, and that these are very, very similar to one another in terms of how they look swatched. And there's another highlighter that I have that is from Dolce & Gabbana, and that one is very similar to this RMS one also. And so if you're familiar with this particular highlighter, what you will know is that it's not super shimmery, and it also is not super pigmented, and so when you put it on your skin it actually looks quite natural, and I feel like I can use this RMS one fairly liberally on my skin and have it still look pretty nice. And so I will go ahead and try putting a little bit of this on, and the brush that I have here, it's the 109 from BK Beauty. This may actually be supposed to be a foundation brush, but that's okay. We'll just try to give it a little try and see how it looks. And so what I would say is that it looks to me like there's a little bit of a base here. And so I have been experimenting with various shimmery highlighters recently. So I've been looking at the YSL one, and I've been looking at the ones from Polite Society and from NARS, and some other ones. And I think that one thing that I have noticed is that some of these highlighters, like for instance the YSL one, tend to have a little bit of a base to them, so they're not just shimmer particles, but they also have a little bit of a sort of a colored base, either a white colored base or cream, or in some cases they may be a little bit pink. And if I compare that, for instance, to the Polite Society highlighter, I feel like the Polite Society highlighter has very little base and very small particles. And so actually I've been liking that one, and I do want to demonstrate that one also. I feel like this one does have a little bit of cream base to it, but I feel like it's kind of minor, and at least because it's pretty much the same color as my skin, I don't think that it's looking like very chalky. I think it looks fairly natural. They are saying that anyone should be able to wear this highlighter regardless of how deep your skin tone is or how light your skin tone is. And I don't know if that's the case or not, but I kind of like the way that it looks on me personally anyway. I think it looks very natural and not too sparkly, and I think that probably a lot of people that have demonstrated this have demonstrated it at the same time that they are wearing the pink blush, which also is sort of equally sparkly, and that probably if you put both of these products on your cheeks at once, it is going to turn out to be a very sparkly look. And that I feel like with this particular highlighter, it's looking much more natural, and something that I feel like I am perfectly happy to wear out during the day, and certainly when it starts to snow, I'm happy to wear it out during the day, but I feel like I could wear this fine during the summer too. It really is not that sparkly. And the reason that I put a little bit of this under my eyes is because I saw this video that had Rosemary Swift, who is the founder of RMS, and she did an interview with Glam Girl Gabby, and so she suggested putting a little bit of her luminizer under the eyes, and I think that it looks fine if I put it under my eyes. I don't think that's a problem either. She thinks that that can help to diffuse, at least with her product, the look of dark circles, and I think it's looking all right. I don't have a problem with that. And so let's put on a little bit of the lipstick, and then we'll go back and see how this is looking. And so let's start with the Banyan tree, and this is the one that is a fairly dark brown. And they did not even show this on someone with light skin on the website, and so I'm a little bit afraid of it, but I do want to give it a try. And I was going to demonstrate the Chantecaille lip pencil, which I do have. Someone asked me to do that, and I forgot to do it for this lipstick. But you know, I think that these lipsticks perform so well that I don't even feel like I really need a lip liner that much. I feel like they go on really, really easily, and that they stay on really well, and that they are not making a mess. And so I think that that is a really, really important thing. And I am really liking the way that all of these lipsticks have looked on my lips and the way that they stay on my lips. And I did put on a bit of this product from Creal, which is their lip grip, which I generally put on whenever I'm wearing a real lipstick these days because I do really like this product. And I do think that my lipstick goes on a bit better when I put on that lip grip, but that is all that I put on as a base, and I think that it seems to be working really, really well. And on my cheeks, by the way, I put on a little bit of the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks Blush Sticks in addition to the products that were in the Hourglass kit. And the reason for that is because another special that Westman Atelier is having is that you can get 2 of the Baby Cheeks Blush Sticks for $60, so that would be $30 each, which is considerably better than their usual price of $48. And you can pick the shades, and so you can get the shade that is called Mimi, and I think that one is still only available on the Westman Atelier website. And so on my cheeks today, I put just some of that Mimi shade, which is a really kind of a neutral pinky brown type of a color, and I also put on a little tiny bit of this really bright shade called Poppet, just to give my cheeks a little bit of color and dimension. And so I think that my cheeks are kind of understated, but that once I get this lipstick on, I think that they are looking kind of good. I think that the thing that is looking a little bit off to me really is my having put on that eyeliner from the Patrick Ta kit, and I think that, again, that shade was a little bit on the reddish side. So let's put on the Creal eyeliner and then some of that mascara and see if we can make that look a little better. And so this is the shade Twilight Smoke, and so I'll just try to put this on right along my lash line. And I am losing my light, but I think that tomorrow during the snowstorm, we're not going to have very good light at all. So I'll just try to finish it all now. And meanwhile, Coco is barking. Oh, see, I think that looks better already. And then I'll put on some of this mascara, and I always have liked this mascara a lot. Now it's been a number of months since I have used this, and so I'm happy to be getting a new one. And it's seeming like it really is a little bit on the dried up side, so I'm not sure how this is going to perform. And I did use it really pretty frequently, so let's just give it a try, and hopefully I won't get an eye infection. And this is called Back of the Cab Mascara. And so it's supposed to be really easy to put on even when you are not able to pay attention or when there's like jerking motions. And I do feel like for a good percentage of its life cycle that it was very, very easy for me to put on. And then at some point it started to get a little bit less easy, and so I stopped using it. But I think it wasn't even too bad today, and I will be happy to get a new one of these. All right, let's try on that other lipstick, and then we will be done. So I will put on just a little bit more of this lip grip, and then I will put on the Chantecaille lip pencil. And it has been quite a few years since this lip pencil came out, and I do not feel like there's anything wrong with this lip pencil, and I think that it is better than not putting on any lip pencil when I'm using a lipstick. And I think this shade is called Nuance, so it's very light. And in general, I think it's fine, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as that Westman Atelier lip pencil. I think that those are really fantastic and one of my favorite products of the year. And so now let's try this super bright color. It looks really super bright in the tube, much more so than I was anticipating, which is called Cherry Blossom. And so we can see if that can work for me. And it actually doesn't look all that bright now that I have it on my lips. It actually looks perfectly comfortable and fine. And I am kind of shocked at how good this is. And what I will say is that the other day I was trying on some of the Lisa Eldridge lipsticks in comparison, and in the past I had always been really impressed with the Lisa Eldridge lipsticks, especially in terms of the color, but also in terms of the formula. But I really feel like in comparison these days that these Chantecaille lipsticks are actually blowing the Lisa Eldridge lipsticks out of the water. And I certainly do like the formula for these, and the fact that they do not have plastics or any obvious silicones in them is a little bit of an extra bonus. But I also think that the colors are really remarkably good, and that all of the colors that I've tried so far have been really, really wearable for me, and that has been a real treat. And to finish up, let's just put a little bit more of this eyeshadow on my eyes. So I will rub my finger around here a lot more so we get a little bit more on the look how beautiful it is, though. It's kind of gorgeous. It's like so sparkly. I really like this one, and I'm not sorry at all that I bought this particular shade of it, even though it doesn't have a lot of dramatic color in it. I think that these sparkles are really just gorgeous and very reflective of ice and snow. And this one is very pretty also. And you know, I thought what I'd do finally is just put a little tiny bit of this on with the brush on my face, just to see what it looks like. And I know that this is not maybe what you're supposed to be doing, but I think it's a little bit fun before I lose all my light. And I actually don't mind the way that that looks either. I mean, I wouldn't wear it probably in the middle of the day, except maybe in a snowstorm, but I think that that's actually kind of pretty also. I like it. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video, and Coco and I do love you very much, and so thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I would love to hear your comments. Take care, and Coco and I do love you. Goodbye. Ba-da-ba-da-da-bum, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-